We are doing a fixed version of US 220. I heard this guy, we didn't split off with US 322.
Yeah!
But I
Why'd
didn't
you
know
not
why I
mention
just
that,
didn't
buddy?
mention that. So, we're gonna do this US 220 fixed version. So, yeah, let's do it. US 220 is from Rockingham.
I know.
Asheboro.
I know.
Greensboro.
Yes.
Okay. Martinsville.
Okay.
Rocky Mount.
Ugh.
Roanoke.
Yes.
Covington.
Yes.
Clifton.
Yes.
Heads up into West Virginia. Heads into small towns. Heads into Maryland to Cumberland.
Yes, we know.
Heads up to Bedford. We get Hollidaysburg.
No, we don't. Altoona. Don't forget about that. Tyrone. State College. Bellefontaine.
State College.
Yeah, you got that. Bellefontaine, you forgot.
I forgot. That State College is there, man. I know where it is. I've tried. I've messed up like one time. So I'm going to do it again.
Yes, you will.
And do the fixed version. Williamsport.
Yes.
And finally head up into Waverly, New York.
Dude, cut that out.
So let's do the fixed version of US 220. We get a mention for US 220 for Asheboro and Greensboro. We get Interstate 73 South for Lumberton and 74 East also for Lumberton.
Okay.
We should get like Wilmington, like US 74 goes there. And then Interstate 73 North and Interstate 74 West and US 220 are signed for nothing. We should get like Asheboro, Winston-Salem, and Greensboro. And we're splitting off with Interstate 73 and 74. So we're going into a small town. And we are joining back with Interstate 73 and 74 for Asheboro. This time, we get US 64 signed for Silver City and Lexington. Wow. I don't know why.
'Cause it is.
And once we're in Asheboro, we're still going to be splitting off with Interstate 73 and 74 eventually. Now we're going to be joining Interstate 73 for Greensboro. And we get Interstate 74 for Winston-Salem and High Point. We get Interstate 85 for Durham. We get a mention for Interstate 40 East for Raleigh. And we get US 421 South. So we get Interstate 73 and US 421 for Winston-Salem, Martinsville to Groomtown Road. Interesting. We get US 29 for High Point and Charlotte. And we get Reedsville. Alright. We get US 20 and Interstate 40 for Winston-Salem and Burlington. We're joining US 29 for Reedsville as we're splitting off Interstate 40. We'll be joining US 70.
Danville.
So we're signed for Wendover Avenue. But we should get Martinsville.
Kind of agree with that.
Once we split off of US 70, we get Roanoke. Yay! We finally get Roanoke as our town. Yay! That is awesome. We get Roanoke for US 220.
You did not say primary.
We get Interstate 840 for Winston-Salem to Interstate 73. We get Interstate 840 to Interstate 785 for Raleigh. And we're signed for nothing. We should get Roanoke. Come on. NC
Yeah, I
Dot.
kinda agree with
You
that.
should do better than that. And Interstate 73 officially ends, so US 220 continues. We get US 158 for Reedsville and Stokesdale. We get US 311 for Wentworth and Madison. So we're joining US 311 and US 220. And US 311 is splitting off with US 220 for Mayodan and Eden. Wow. We should get a town for US 311, actually. So US 220 will head into Martinsville and Roanoke. And welcome to Virginia. We get US 58 for Danville and Roanoke for US 220 North.
It's a joke.
US 58 will head into Danville with US 29 and US 360. We get US 58 splitting off. It'll head into Independence. So US 220 will still go into Roanoke. We get US 460 for Orange Avenue. Yeah, why are we getting road names? This should have been a town for US 460, like Lynchburg or Blacksburg. Yep, we get actual US 220 on and US 460 for Lynchburg. You can see US 11 is mentioned. Once we're leaving downtown Roanoke,
11.
we heard Interstate 81 South is signed for Salem and Bristol. And we're signed for Lexington for Interstate 81 and US 220. There's a mention for US 11 for Cloverdale. And we're signed for Troutville and Fincastle.
Okay.
Alright. We're signed for Covington for US 60. It says to Interstate 64 as we head in to Lexington. For Interstate 64 for Lexington, Virginia. Not the actual Lexington, Kentucky, but we just get Lexington, Virginia. We're meeting Interstate 64 West. So we're going to be joining Interstate 64 West. US 60 East is still with Interstate 64 East. We're signed for Covington as we join Interstate 64 West and US 60 West. So we get Lexington for Interstate 64 East and US 60 East. We get US 60 and US 220 for Covington and Hot Springs. So we're splitting off with Interstate 64. Why is US 220 getting signed for West Rock? So US 60 is now splitting off. We get Truck US 220 for West Rock. We're joining US 220 for Stanton and Elkins. And we're signed for Franklin. And we're splitting off with US 250. So US 220 would head into Franklin. And we're welcome to West Virginia. In Franklin, we're meeting US 33. What are we signed for US 33? Petersburg and Seneca Rocks. So US 33 East is signed for Harrisonburg, Virginia, and we're signed for Seneca Rocks for US 33 West. So we should get like Elkins or Buckhannon.
Okay.
So we're signed for Petersburg. And we're splitting off with US 33. US 33 would go into Seneca Rocks, but we should get like Elkins and Buckhannon.
I agree with that.
And US 220 will head into Petersburg. Ugh, alright. Here we are in downtown Petersburg. So US 220 is turning right as we head into Cumberland, Maryland. So we get a mention for US 48, actually.
Yes,
Yes, we do. So I missed that video. I saw US 48 right there. I see it. We're signed for Keiser, Grafton, and Romney.
Okay.
So US 50 would be congruent with us. We're signed for Grafton for US 220. Wait, no, US 220 is actually signed for Keiser. So US 50 is splitting off with US 220. In Keiser, we're about to head into Maryland. And we finally get Cumberland as we enter into Maryland. Alright. We're joining Interstate 68 in US 40 West. No, we ain't. We're joining Interstate 68 East and US 40 East. So US 220 would be congruent with
It's
68
concurrent.
East and US 40 East. So US 40 and Interstate 68 will head into Morgantown. Here's that nice scenery in downtown Cumberland. And we're splitting off with Interstate 68 East and US 40 East. So we get Bedford for US 220. And welcome to Pennsylvania. We get US 30 for Greensburg and Everett.
Don't forget
So we get a
Altoona.
mention for Interstate 99. You can see Interstate 76 and Interstate 70.
Yes.
And we get Interstate 99. You can see US 220. US 22
It's
down
22,
there.
man.
And
US
we're joining
22.
US 322. And yes, US 322 is splitting off for
Finally,
State
you
College
got it.
in Lewistown. So finally fixed it. So I messed
you
up
did.
for like.
Don't make the older
For no
version
reason.
go like this ever again.
So we're still getting to Interstate 80.
Bellefontaine.
So Interstate
okay?
99 and US 220 are heading to Interstate 80. Interstate 80, we're signed for Williamsport for US 220 and Interstate 80. We get US 220 for Lock Haven as we're splitting off Interstate 80. US 15 North is signed for Mansfield, and we're signed for Lewisburg and Motorsville. Montoursville.
Yeah, Montoursville.
Oh, it's Montoursville. Okay, I got it. So we get a mention for Interstate 180. We get US 15 splitting off for Lewisburg. We should get like Harrisburg.
I agree with that.
And then we get Interstate 180 and US 220 still signed for Montoursville. In Montoursville, we get Pennsylvania Highway 87.
Yes.
And we're splitting off with Interstate 180 for Milton. And we're signed for Pennsdale and Halls. We get US 6 for Troy and Towanda.
Yes.
We get Interstate 86 and New York Highway 17. Oh yeah, I missed it. It's Binghamton and Elmira. And we get Waverly.
Okay.
Alright. And welcome to New York. And yes, US 220 officially ends. So, the fixed US Highway 220.
Like I said, I did the voiceover on my US 220 video. So, yep, that is it for tonight. Peace out. And we'll do US 72 coming up next. And US 49 and 85. No, I'll just do US 72 as my voiceover.